Prices, it's what everybody is talking about these days. And so in this video, I want to contrast Portland with Los Angeles. We get a lot of people that we've worked with relocating from California, and we've done videos like this in the past, but it's never more relevant than now. And in this video, I'm also going to share with you one couple story that moved from California a couple of years ago to Oregon. We're going to cover some of the details and what it was like for them. And then I'm going to go over some of the most recent data with you. You'll definitely want to stick around for taxes. There's going to be some surprises in that one. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Living in Oregon. I'm your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon and Washington. Or if you're new to this channel, Living in Oregon, we show you what it's like to live here, mostly focusing around the Portland metropolitan area. So if you want to see more videos like this, especially if you're thinking about moving here, we've helped a lot of people relocate from outside of the state to this area. A lot of people watch these videos for information and then reach out to us to help with the move. So if you're one of those people that's maybe thinking about moving here, you want to make sure and subscribe to this channel. We release new videos every single week. A lot of them are showing you what the Portland metropolitan area looks like, getting you familiar with all of the neighborhoods around the Portland metro area. So make sure and subscribe. So before we get into some of the numbers, this is an article I read just a couple of days ago, and I found it interesting. There's a couple of things in here that really stood out to me. This article is, we moved from Los Angeles to rural Oregon to save money. It's been great, but small town life has its downsides. Now in this video, I'm going to contrast, like I mentioned, Los Angeles to Portland, but I thought this couple's story was still interesting. And we do cover a lot of Oregon, including some rural parts. I've helped a lot of people move to rural parts, so I'm familiar as being a lifelong Oregonian with a lot of different areas in Oregon. And so if you're maybe thinking about moving somewhere outside of the Portland metro, this might also be a little bit relevant to you. One thing that jumped out to me here, this says, in 2023, a partner and I left Los Angeles and moved to a more rural part of Oregon to save money. Probably not a surprise. Costs are going to generally be less, although what you're going to see in some of the data, not everything is necessarily going to be less expensive. So we spend less on rent, groceries, activities, but often have more limited options, it says. And this one thing that was actually interesting to me here, our internet and garbage services have been surprisingly frustrating, but we love living here. And I wondered if anybody else saw this article. One thing I wanted to point out is, because we do get this question in Oregon with remote work being more and more common these days, is what is the internet like? And I'm going to get to internet prices. And as far as high-speed internet goes, you're going to find pretty much high-speed internet just about everywhere. Like I said, I've helped a lot of people move to rural places, including along the Oregon coast. We do help people move there as well. And pretty much everywhere that's going to surround the Portland metro area and everywhere along the Oregon coast, you will find high-speed internet. So that shouldn't be an issue to you. With people working remotely these days, we know that's really important. And one thing I found interesting too is they mentioned garbage services. Now that's one thing, and you tell me if this has been your experience, if you're somebody that's watching from California or maybe from another state. That's been one thing for me that's been really surprising. I actually realized this about maybe 6 or 7 months ago. I realized my garbage actually hasn't gone up. Maybe a couple of dollars in the last couple of years. Really hasn't gone up hardly at all over the last 5 or 6 years. It's really the only thing actually that I can think of that actually hasn't gone up over the last 5 or 6 years, which is really not really sure. I couldn't really figure out why that was. If anybody knows why our waste services have not gone up, at least for me, like in the Portland metropolitan area, why that is, I'd be curious for you to weigh in the comments below. So this says, we adored our Koreatown apartment, but soaring rent, gas, utility, groceries, bills, we were scraping by. That's kind of the standard story that we hear so often. So in July 2023, picked up their dog belongings and into an F-150 and made their way to a small rural town in Oregon. They said one reason we chose Oregon is that they had lived here before and felt confident about their dollars going farther. So that's going to largely be true. One thing I guess they found as a surprise is their rent wasn't maybe as low as they had expected it to be, of course, but it was much lower than being in LA. And this also says, while Oregon isn't immune to current inflation, our groceries are still more affordable now. And I'll get to some grocery data contrasting milk and eggs from LA to Portland, or at least where I'm at in Portland. Kind of found it interesting myself. I was a little bit surprised at what I found. But one thing they're saying is the food quality is often better since there's easier access to locally grown produce. We do have a lot of farmers market here, a lot of farm to table. This area, really the Portland metropolitan area, is really surrounded by farmland, and that's what a lot of the new development is being done on, is on farmland. They did also say, though, that they felt more limited with grocery stores, said there's nothing like a Whole Foods. Now, again, they said they're in a small rural town. It doesn't say what rural town is, but we have a lot of Whole Foods and a lot of equivalent stores around the Portland metropolitan area. So if that's something you're worried about, you're going to be fine there. They do go on to say that leisure activities were generally cheaper. Going out for drinks sets us way back less than it did in LA. I'm sure that's going to be true. But they say, even so, we've run into a few extra costs and higher service fees. Though living in a major city can get expensive faster, more rural life still came with costs and inconveniences we weren't anticipating. So if they say, for example, reliable internet isn't guaranteed in our area. Our first Oregon house wasn't set up for internet at all, and it took months to get FiberNet internet installed. Spectrum would have taken even longer. So for the Portland metropolitan area, the high-speed internet that most people are using is Comcast Infinity. For some of the more rural areas like the Oregon coast, Spectrum is going to be the preferred provider. And then it says our garbage service is also significantly more expensive than it was in Los Angeles. My garbage service, I checked the bill for this past month, was $57. I went back 3 or 4 years, and it was about $53. Like I mentioned, for some reason, that's the one thing that hasn't gone up much. And just recalling, I was trying to think back, like, say, maybe 10 years or so. I don't really remember it being a whole lot lower than $50. So it's really maintained over a long period of time for the Portland metropolitan area. So they said they pay a whopping $70 a month, far more than they did in LA. How much are you people paying in LA or the Bay Area or wherever you're watching from? And this is a pretty quick article. This is about the end. She says, I'd be lying to say I don't miss the La La Land's never-ending stream of entertainment, cultural events, and unparalleled people watching, but if I had to make the choice to move again, I would. So that's interesting to know. Overall, their small-town life has saved us in more ways than money, stress, hours of sitting in traffic. Now, that's another thing, too. Gas prices in Oregon and California are some of the highest in the country. So I know gas is very expensive in California. You're not going to probably find much savings in Oregon, although you won't sit in traffic nearly as much here. We do have bad traffic, but not, it's going to be, of course, subjective, not nearly what it is in LA. And then they say the cherry on the top, we now get woken up by an alarm clock, which is our neighborhood rooster. Now, they must be in a very rural part of Oregon to get woken up by the neighborhood rooster. I will say that chickens are not that uncommon in some of the Portland metropolitan areas, but neighborhood roosters, you're not going to hear those much. All right, let's dig into some of the numbers now. Okay, so overall cost of living in Los Angeles is going to be roughly about 20% more expensive than Portland. That can definitely vary. Some of these numbers I pulled from the internet, and some I actually looked up. Like, for example, food prices, I used Safeway, because if you're just Google searching these things or probably using AI like so many of you are, I found that a lot of those numbers actually weren't very accurate. So I went straight to the sources for some of these things where I could. Now, I'm also going to include rent in here, although we don't work with renters. In the state of Oregon, there is no renter-realtor relationship. There is no realtor that helps to transact rentals, but I thought this might be helpful for some people that are watching. And there are a few of you, of course, that are going to move here and rent first before you actually buy. And we've helped some of you people in a number of different ways as well, too. So I'm including rent here. So for one person, 1-bedroom apartment, $1,752 in LA compared to $881 in Portland. Probably no surprise there. Now, as far as home prices go, LA median home price $900,000 to $1.2 million. Portland median home price $575,000. I'm going to show you at the end of this video home prices for all of the different parts of the Portland metropolitan area, including Washington and Clackamas County, but just under 600,000 is about right. This is the big one that I mentioned earlier that you'll want to pay close attention to. So LA's income tax up to 12.3%. Of course, you have sales tax as well. We have no sales tax in Portland, only up to 9.9% in Oregon. Although I will say, here's the big caveat. This one catches a lot of people by surprise. In the Portland metropolitan area, we have 3 counties. It's a tri-county area. And Multnomah County, which is where Portland proper is, you might find yourself paying some additional taxes. What you see there below, single filers up to 1.5% on taxable income over $125,000 and 1.5% on income over $250,000. So joint filers 1.5%, $200,000, an additional 1.5% on income over $400,000, and that is set to increase. And that's not all either. If you're self-employed, you might find additional taxes, and that includes people like myself, like a realtor. I paid a whopping $1,500. It was like $1,497, almost $1,500 on TriMet tax for last year. Now, I sell homes all over the Portland metropolitan area, like I mentioned, at the coast and some outskirts as well, and like I mentioned, in some of the rural areas. So it's not like I sold a ton of homes, dozens of homes in Multnomah County, but yet I still paid $1,500 just in TriMet tax. Now, on the same note of real estate, you might find yourself paying some additional taxes on investment properties when you sell. So just keep that in mind. The Portland metropolitan area is comprised of Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County. And in Multnomah County, for some of you people that are self-employed or higher income earners, you might find yourself paying considerably more in taxes. All right, how about electricity? This one comes up a lot when we're talking about utility bills, or at least when I'm talking to somebody from California that's thinking about relocating here. These numbers I pulled from the internet, and these numbers strike me as accurate, at least for Portland. So average electricity bill says approximately $160, and that's for like an average size home, average size family. I have a slightly larger than average home, slightly than larger family, and so my electric bill is usually about $200 a year. We're probably spending less on air conditioning, but more on heating. It says for Los Angeles, it's right in line actually. So this is where I'm wondering, and you anybody watching, feel free again to weigh in on the comments, because this is a lot lower than I've heard. I've heard people tell me from LA that their electricity bills have been up to in the range of like say $500 a month. This says on average around $160 a month in LA, with another source citing it at closer to $175 a month. How about some food prices? This is where when I just did a preliminary search online and using AI, some of the numbers just didn't strike me as accurate. So I went and used Safeway as an example. And so a dozen eggs, what are eggs looking like at Safeway in Portland, Oregon, ranging as low as $4.29, kind of in the 6s, up into the 9s, and then maybe some just beyond 10. What do they look like in LA? Right about the same. I was actually a little bit surprised to find that. I thought that maybe, again, like that person mentioned in the article, having more farms around here, eggs might be a little less expensive around the Portland metro, but maybe that's not the case. Some cases maybe a little bit more expensive than LA, but not quite as much as I thought it would be. Now, how about milk prices? What are you looking at for milk? So a gallon of the good stuff, organics, whole milk, up to $6.99. We go through a lot of milk in my house, so I have noticed milk prices in the past, and that's been the price for a good solid year, maybe a couple of years. Occasionally it'll be on sale for like $1 off or something like that, but I think it's been around $7 for quite a while, as low as $3.79 if you want, like say Lucerne, for example. LA, the same gallon of milk for organics, whole milk is going to be $7.99. Lucerne is going to be $3.99 again, as opposed to that $3.79. So a little bit more what I'm seeing in LA. And I looked up a few other things like bread, and that kind of held true as well. So groceries going to be a little bit less in Oregon, but maybe not quite as much as you might expect. About childcare costs. So This is the Portland metro area, and it includes 97034. That's where my office is, so that's what it defaulted to when looking up some of this data. So infants, toddlers, 0 to 3 years, average monthly cost about $1,680. We'll call it $1,700 for full-time care, 5 days a week. Preschoolers, 3 to 5 years, average monthly cost $1,325 for full-time care. So about $1,700 to $1,300 in Portland. Los Angeles, infants, they have it rated as 0 to 2 years. And this data comes from a childcare website called Tutris. Average monthly cost for them, $3,325. So almost twice as much in LA for infants. Toddlers, 18 to 36 months, drops off quite a bit. So average monthly cost closer to $1,400. And preschoolers, average monthly cost $2,863, so $2,800. Again, Portland was just $1,300, so big difference in child costs between Portland and LA. Aside from housing costs, that's probably where you're going to find the biggest gap in prices. All right, now here's where we have internet. Now, this is brought to you by highspeedinternet.com. I have to say that my internet, which I have, is Xfinity Fiber, the 400 megabytes. That's what I currently have. I'm paying more like $100 to $120 a month. And for some reason, it actually dipped down for a while. It was $80 a month for a long time. And then it went up to $100. And I think lately it's been $120 a month. And my kids have kind of been on their devices more recently, it seems like. So I've actually gone over a few times in the last few months and been closer to maybe $130 or $150 a month. I think for the most part in the Portland metro area, you're going to find that high-speed internet is going to be, just call it probably right around $100 a month. This is what I'm seeing for LA. Looks like you've got AT&T down there and Frontier and Spectrum. If you want AT&T, 300 megabytes per second, $55 a month, 1,000 megabytes, $80 to $100 a month. It seems like pretty reasonable prices. Again, if anybody watching from LA, if you want to weigh in, let me know what you're paying for internet. Looks like you have some cheaper options, like a Cox, for example, 250 megabytes for $50 a month. And then finally, I want to show you some of the housing prices broken down by the regions in the Portland metropolitan area, which also includes Clark County on the other side of Columbia in Washington, where Vancouver is. Again, I'm licensed there as well, and I've helped plenty of people move to that area also. So we're going to kind of see right in the center of that lower graphic where it's NE Portland, Northeast Portland, Southeast Portland, West Portland, North Portland. Kind of average those out. You're looking at just about under 600,000. And a lot of the suburbs surrounding the Portland metropolitan area, like a Beaverton, Tigard, Oregon City, places like Milwaukee, are also going to be kind of right around that $600,000 mark, with Lake Oswego and West Lynn being the highest. If you look up north towards where it says Ridgefield, La Center, Battleground, might not be completely reflected in this data, but there's a lot of new construction there, and your dollar is actually going to go a lot farther. So you can get like a new build for under $600,000 in those areas, whereas what you're looking at for Portland, average home is going to be more like 30, 40, 50 years old at right under 600,000. So a lot of people looking up north to stretch their dollar a little bit farther these days. So in general, a lot of the things, your utilities, your groceries, your gas, really probably not going to be a whole lot different than what you're used to in California. But of course, the housing prices are going to be a lot different. You only need about 2/3 of the income in Oregon to live on the same lifestyle that you'd be living on in California. And of course, if you're considering Multnomah County and you're a higher income earner, had a lot of people that when I explained that to them, that was a surprise for them. A lot of people don't seem to be aware that you could pay significantly more taxes if you end up in Multnomah County. If you do have more questions about these things, I invite you to get in touch. If you're thinking about relocating, buying an investment property, anything at all when it comes to purchasing a home in Oregon or in Washington, I invite you to call, text, email. You can also hit that QR code if you want to go to our website where you can find more information, including more videos. And of course, if you want to see more videos every single week that are going to show you exactly what it's like to live in Oregon, from data to neighborhood tours to market updates, everything you really need to know. We've helped dozens and dozens of people. We help usually about a couple people every single month relocating from outside of the state. And if you're one of those people that wants to take the next steps, I invite you again to call, text, email, however you want to get in touch. You can find the information in the description of this video below. And if this video helped you, hit the like button, give me a thumbs up, lets me know I'm doing a good job. Like I've mentioned, feel free to comment, let me know your thoughts on comparing expenses to, it doesn't have to necessarily be California. If you're watching from some other place, Texas, Florida, Arizona, that's a lot of other places where we help people relocate from. Feel free to weigh in or ask questions about the cost of living. We'll reply back. And until next time, take care, everyone.